So, this is the 7th time trying to make the video, but this time I have my wife, and she can help explain a lot better because she's always been on the outside of this, and you can hear her side of a spouse that has to deal with their partner getting locked up. So, in 2020, December, I get diagnosed with PNES, which, for anyone who doesn't know, they are psychogenic non-epileptic seizures, and they're seizures, but they're not like epileptic seizures. So these are mostly caused by traumatic event. That's also why she's here, because I've been having trouble talking and saying stuff, and it's irritating because I can't talk properly. So it kind of PNES, that sounded like I said something else. PNES. So they go off of like trauma and stuff, but they're still seizures for the uneducated people in the medical field who just pseudo seizures. You're faking your seizures. So there was some drama that happened to me in 2021, and a few weeks later I came home, and everything was fine. Me and my wife went to the fair, and we were having a great time, and I had a seizure. So like the cops and paramedics were already there because it's a fair, and they were taking me there because I kept going in and out of seizures. And as they got me into the parking lot, my wife was with them, and one of the male EMTs decided it was a great idea to put his hand down my pants and try and lift me up that way. So of course, me having severe PTSD with men started freaking out because I felt that. And my wife was just screaming like, hey, she has PTSD with men. That, one, you don't need to stick your hand down someone's pants to pick them up. Two, you don't need to touch them in that place, like, at all. And they kept telling my wife, like, well, really, Tabby, come here. Now you can hear from her side what happened.
What part are we at?
Whenever we were in the parking lot.
It wasn't even a guy that, he didn't like stick his hand on your pants or anything. She pulled on your belt loop. Like the little part where you like put your belt through on the back of your pants. She pulled on that to get you to sit down. Just genius. Either way, it's still fucked up. You don't need to be doing that shit, especially when like someone's not fully there in the head, whether it's seizures or they're dissociating or anything like that. You don't need to fucking do that.
And mind you, she grew up in an ambulance building in New York, so she was around a lot of EMTs, plus her mom was an EMT, so.
It's born and raised in the medical field. I've basically have more medical knowledge than most people around here, and I've been in the medical field longer than most. But when I kept saying, she's having a seizure and you don't want to do that because that's very dumb. They were just, this is not a seizure. I'm like, you want to bet?
Yeah, people who don't know me and who's only spent about 2 minutes with me are assuming what I have and I don't have. So let's try and make this so for any EMTs or any nurses or doctors, let's try and make this a rule for you guys. Let's not assume what someone has and they don't have just because you're an EMT or a doctor. You don't know everything, because there is still a lot of stuff that a lot of people have that aren't diagnosed, or a lot of doctors don't know what they are because they're not educated, and that is not a bad thing to not be educated. But when people are trying to educate you very nicely and calmly, how about you just take that and say, oh, okay, thank you for telling me and letting me know. No, these people here are very disrespectful, and they just keep saying that they know what it is, even though the person who diagnosed me, so she runs a clinic in Denver, and she kind of found this, and she studies people who are like me with PNES, trying to give us the best possible help, and they're trying to find medication. Right now there is no medication for what I have. It's just kind of therapy, extensive therapy, and trying to get your brain on the right track for now. So hopefully a few years, I'm hoping they will say, yeah, we have medicine for you guys now. Like, oh really? I would love that. I will be your guinea pig to see if it works. So,
and mind you, this is a paramedic. Paramedics, EMTs, they work the same field. When this person wanted to tell me that they were not seizures, my mind immediately went back to exactly what my mother said 4 years ago when the seizures started, when we didn't even know what they were. She wasn't passing out or anything. She was just kind of flailing and her eyes were closed. And my mom said, those are seizures. And I'm like, no, they're not. We don't know what it is, because I was in denial. Because nobody wants to find out that their significant other has seizures or has, like, prone to strokes or anything like that. You don't want to find that out. So I was like, no. And then it progressively got worse. So my mother was right from the get, and at this point, that's exactly what she was doing. She was standing, but her eyes were closed, and she was flailing. And this person still couldn't even see that it was a seizure. She just, no, it's not a seizure. And I'm like, excuse me. Eventually, somehow, magically, they got her on the stretcher. I don't know how. I kind of just spaced because I was about to see red and I was about to get locked up. So I kind of just spaced, and eventually they got her in the ambulance and everything and went to the hospital.
yeah, but in that ambulance, I also, because I was in and out, I did hear the EMTs that were in the front and the EMT that was right by my head. They were mocking my wife, like, oh yeah, she has seizures, haha, yeah, and I'm just like the president. And I'm like, so you think it's okay to joke and make jokes and mock whenever the patient's in your rig right now? Yeah, that's a great idea to sit there and mock someone, even if they are faking. You think it's funny, right? Yeah, because that was very, it hurt to have people just assume and say that they're fake. I'm like, I want you to live my life and go through what I have been through and be out on top with these problems that they suck, because these seizures are still seizures. It doesn't matter what anyone else says. It only matters what the doctor who diagnosed me with. And I'm gonna go ahead and believe her, because when I first got diagnosed with these seizures, I was in these groups listening to a lot of other people say they're the same things that they go through, and that all of the people are like, yeah, people will tell me all the time I'm faking them. And most of these people don't have jobs. They can't have jobs. And a lot of them, and including me in these groups, because it would be video groups on like my phone, and a lot of us were having seizures throughout the whole group meeting. And I'm just like, it made me feel better to know that I'm not the only one having these seizures. It made me feel better to know that I'm not the only one who gets discriminated against, who gets judged, and who gets told outright to your face you're faking them. So it made me feel better, but they did have to let me go from the group. Not because I was bad or anything. They seen it was making me worse, and they're like, yeah, we don't want you here because we don't want you to get worse. We want you to be better. But I have been trying to go back, because it's been like 2 years now. So I've been trying to go back to the group. I just need my therapist. I've been wanting to ask them. But with the progress that's been happening recently, because today is January 6th right now, and these past few weeks, it hasn't been going good at all, and I don't like it. I've been in a very bad mental place. But after that, we got to the hospital. They were asking me the routine questions, which I was still out of it, like, are you sad? And I'm like, I'm an honest person. I'm like, yeah, I'm sad. And I did tell them about the traumatic event that happened to me. It just involves, assault. That's what I'm just gonna say right now. It involves assault. So I was like, yeah, it happened a few weeks ago, so it still hurts. But me and my wife were just trying to have fun at the fair, and I'm like, yes, I don't want to be alive, but there's, like I tell everyone, there's two parts of me. One part does want to live and wants to live for the future, and the other part doesn't want to live because it holds on to a lot of pain. And I know anyone can say just let it go, but it's not so easy when pain just constantly keeps happening. So my wife got there, and
mind you, somehow, magically, me in a car got to the hospital at the exact same time that the ambulance did. An ambulance, especially for a seizure patient, should be going faster, lights and sirens, going to the hospital if they are that worried about the patient. They clearly had no regard for how she was doing or her well-being at all, considering me in a car got there at the exact same time.
So she got there, and they had kind of already made their decision before she got there, like not even 5 minutes in the room with me, and they're just like, you're going to the hospital, which I didn't know that. They didn't communicate that at all. They didn't ask any other questions. I was like, I'm just being honest with you because you guys are asking me questions, and I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I'm just telling you the truth. But no, I don't want to hurt myself, not at this particular moment. I'm just very upset because you guys are not listening to me. So of course, me, like always, anytime I go to the hospital and they're like, you're going to the mental hospital, I do get loud. I get very upset. And I'm not like cussing at the staff. I am just upset. I'm like, this is not happening. This can't be happening. I can't be going back to this place, because for me, going to a mental hospital, it doesn't help. And I'm not trying to say that as in, oh, you just don't want to go. No, I'm saying that because it doesn't help. I get better help doing it on my own, going to my therapy appointments on my own time, because if I don't want to go to therapy, my therapist understands, and I'm like, hey, I just don't want to talk today. She's like, okay, that's fine, but let's try and meet next week, and she checks in on me. That is what helps me having the time to myself if I don't want to talk at the moment. And getting sent somewhere to a mental hospital, to me it feels like I'm getting sent to jail, because it kind of is. They humiliate you, they don't listen to you, they just assume since you're at the mental hospital that you have something wrong with you, that you're lying, you're making things up, that you're just pretending. Like, why though? Like, what is the purpose of a mental hospital? It's for you to get help, right? No, they don't treat you like that. They treat you like absolute scum. They treat you like you are nothing, because they are better than you, because they are in charge and you aren't in charge of your life. You can't go to the bathroom without someone watching you, can't sleep without someone watching you. You have to do what they say or you're not leaving. Like, it's just a lot of rules, and I don't like rules. I like doing what I want, when I want, how I want. And I know that may sound kind of bitchy, but I like being my own person. I don't like people babysitting me, because it took a long time for me to admit I have a lot of problems. And now that I do, it's just like, okay, I have these, so I can be honest with people, like, hey, I have this. And I'm working on a lot of better communications, especially both of us, because when I'm mad, I need to tell her when I'm mad, just so she doesn't get offended or doesn't get hurt or doesn't take it too personal. But in the hospital, before I got sent to the other hospital, the mental hospital, the nurses came in, and I was obviously upset because they were asking us, and we thought we were fine. They're like, are we fine? We both were like, yeah, we were at the fair, we were having a good time, we're just gonna go home and go have dinner now. I guess that maybe misinterpreted it, that, yeah, I wanna, end my life right now.
Yeah, somehow us going home to go eat dinner and then go to sleep, somehow magically in that they got, I'm gonna go and kill myself. Yeah. Excuse me.
So of course I was upset, and then I was walking around because I have bad knees, and I had a seizure and I fell on the floor. And then 4 people came, or 3 people came, I don't know how many people were. So 4 people came and picked me up like a rag doll, and I do have pictures of how they picked me up, because they picked me up underneath my arms, and I told her, like, she told me everything that happened. So they picked me up by my arms.
Okay, so she was on the ground, and there was one person that literally just grabbed her arm like this. Even if you're gonna pick somebody up, you don't grab their arm like that. You don't need to do that. And you shouldn't actually pick people up. They make backboards and scoops for that. But you just scoop the person up, or you roll them onto the backboard and pick them up that way. So they picked her up, one on this side, one on the other side, same grip, and then the person at her feet literally just picked up her pant leg, the paper pants, and just, I'm like, excuse me, if that rips, there goes her feet.
Yeah. And they left bruises on me because they were holding me way too tight, which I don't think they should have did that. I don't think that nurses or doctors should leave bruises on you by picking you up at all.
Like, it's one thing to, like, if you need to do CPR and, like, a rib cracks, or, you leave bruises on their chest, that's one thing. But when you're literally just trying to pick the person up, You shouldn't leave marks on them.
Yeah, because in 2019 when we moved to Colorado, I found her in the bathroom and she looked like she was dying, so I kind of just scooped her up. She may be tiny, but still I scooped her up and I didn't leave any bruises on her. I just carried her out the door and took her to the hospital. But I'm like, why would these people leave bruises on me? Like, they were really bad bruises, like dark bruises on both of my arms.
Yeah, it was real bad. But after they got her back on the bed, with seizure patients, you don't do anything. You just leave them alone until they come to, because doing stuff will just hurt them more, make the seizure worse, or you will get hurt. You just leave them alone. Just make sure that they don't swallow their tongue. That's it. You just roll them on their side, leave them alone. Now, because she wasn't actively flailing or anything, usually you can just leave her alone. She will come out of it on her own. Now, if you really need her to come out of it, pain does sometimes help, but pain also can make it worse. So you usually don't play that card anyway. So I literally just said, okay, she's on the bed, leave her alone. Before I even got that out, they literally did a pain pressure response where you literally hit right here because it knocks the wind out of you and it hurts. So when you press right there, you press on your solar plex, and when you press it, you just and it knocks the wind out of you. That will wake people up when they are just unconscious. You don't do that to seizure patients. So when they did that, first of all, that's in a very vulnerable spot, being right here.
And since I am a sexual assault victim, it's been happening all my life. She's the only one that can touch any part of my body. I don't even like other people touching me at all.
I just don't like touching, so even with me, don't touch me. Like, unless I outright say that it's okay, don't touch me. But, like, that's just a very sensitive area just for anybody. But especially for survivors like us, it's just don't know. So, in her seizure, she reacted. She was still seizing, she had no consciousness, she doesn't even remember doing it because she had no control. It was just a reflex. Now, out of reflex, she scratched a nurse.
Scratched, like I went like this, I guess, and scratched it with my nail.
You literally all she did was she just did that because to get the thing that was bothering her away. That's out of reflex. Just like doctors hit your knee and your foot kicks out. It's out of reflex. You have no control over it. It's just a reflex. Apparently this one didn't like that. So, whenever she got scratched, she was literally, hey, we don't do that. That's inappropriate. And I'm like, she's in a seizure. I got blatantly ignored. This entire time, we had another friend on the phone. A friend at the time on the phone. She couldn't see anything, but she heard everything that was going on. And eventually, they all walked out. And whenever she came out of it and everything, she sat up and was on the end of the bed. And they're like, don't get up again. And I'm like, okay, but like her knees hurt from sitting. And one of the nurses that walked in after she had woke back up, I don't know, I don't think it was the same one.
Yeah, I don't know either, because I don't know the person who said that I assaulted her. I don't even know what she looks like. Like, I can't see her face at all. All I know is after that, I was like, I have to go to the bathroom, and they're like, no, you can use a porta potty thing. Like,
a bedpan.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, because I'm like 23 years old. I'm like,
skipped the whole thing.
Huh?
You just skipped the whole thing.
Well, let me finish.
As you interrupted me.
Sorry.
But one of the nurses had walked back in. There was like 3 of them in the room, so I don't know exactly who it was that walked back in. But one of them walked back in, and I said her knees hurt because she was about to stand up again. Like, you can't stand up. So I was like, but her knees hurt from sitting, and then her knees are just gonna have to hurt. I'm like, you're a hospital. You have narcotics, and you just have Tylenol. Like, you can give her pain meds. And then the doctor walked in and was like, what's going on? And I said, well, she was standing and walking around because her knees were hurting. So she was walking around, And then she had a seizure. When she got up, they put her back on the bed, and her knees still hurt. And that one, I pointed straight to the nurse. I was like, that one said, well, her knees are just gonna have to hurt. It's in her chart that she is allergic to ibuprofen.
And that I have seizures.
Yes, and that she has seizures, but especially that she's allergic to ibuprofen. That's prominent for this part. Because the doctor looked me square in the face and said, I can give her ibuprofen. I'm like, do you not read? Like, at all. Because it's in her chart, she's allergic to ibuprofen. Okay, we'll give her Tylenol. I'm like, so you're just not going to answer me of did you not read? And then eventually came back with the Tylenol, and they decided it was a good idea to kick me out.
Yeah, and I wasn't doing anything. I was just literally sitting on the bed crying.
And then they kicked me out. They said, oh, it's until she calms down. Like, she's fucking crying, and she's not going to get much more calm than this. But they literally just, you have to go. I figured there was no fighting it, because it was either I go on my own 2 feet, or my 100-pound butt gets carried out by a very big, strong man, and no thank you. So I went on my 2 feet. They said they were going to let me back in when she calmed down. They did not let me back in, and that's when she needed to use the bathroom. Before.
Yeah, I had to use the bathroom, and they said I had to use like that. Yeah, the thing that old people used to pee, and I was like, no, that's humiliating. I'm 23. I can go to the bathroom. And I don't know who this nurse was, but she came over there and she was like, I'm not gonna break, and she was in the hallway yelling at me too. She was like, I'm not gonna break my back picking you up. So of course I took offense to that. I'm like, I am not that big, and you are bigger than I am, so how dare you talk about my weight? And then I don't know why she felt the need to say this, but she brought up my education, which still head scratcher right now. She was like, I'm having a higher education than you do. And I'm like, okay, but you don't know anything about me at all. So you don't know my intelligence. You don't know my education because you don't know me. So how dare you say that to me? And they brought it back in there, and because before they brought it back in there, I was like, what's your name? And she just walked off. I'm like, no, I want to know your name because I'm going to file a complaint against all of you right now. I'm like, all of you are going to lose your damn jobs, because that's what I wanted to happen, because I get treated this way. So of course I'm like, you know what? No, I didn't do anything wrong. And all of you are treating me so bad, talking to me horribly, and just saying that, oh, you're faking. Oh yeah, I'm faking. All right, sure. Because you're definitely a doctor who diagnosed me with this, right? No, you don't have that ability to diagnose someone with something when you're just an ER nurse. And I'm not trying to talk bad on ER nurses. I'm just this hospital.
This specific hospital.
Yeah, they're really uneducated in this ER department. So, I peed in the pan, and then whenever the people came back, because I was crying, I'm like, this is just humiliating, because they were sitting there, and she was watching me at first. I'm like, can you turn around, because I would like some type of privacy? And she's like, fine. And then when I was done, I'm like, I want to know that girl's name. She's like, I don't know her name. I'm like, oh really? Because you work here with her, you must know who she is. They refused to tell me any of their names. So that was that. And then
basically they knew they fucked up.
Yeah, so the ambulance gets there to transport me to the mental hospital, and as I'm like trying to get onto the cot to get like the stretcher to go to the ambulance, because I couldn't walk, they wouldn't let me walk. This cop comes in there and he's like talking to me, saying a bunch of stuff that I don't understand, and I'm like irritated. I'm like trying to get over, and he was like, do you understand what I said? And me being me, obviously in a really bad upsetting state, I look at him, I'm like, no, and he's like, fine, and he just turns and walks out the room. I'm like, me thinking in my head, I'm like, why was there a cop here trying to say stuff to me? Like, what the heck? But oh, my dog's whining at the door. But I got taken there, and I didn't really think anything else of it. I did my 3-day hold, came out of it, and like a month or two later, I got this letter in the mail. And all it said is the people of Colorado versus me, and I'm like, it didn't have anything else. It's literally just blank, a white piece of paper, nothing else on it. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. It's just probably a scam, you know? And then like a few weeks later, I got another one that said the same thing, but a lot more details. It's like, you have to appear to court on this time, or you're gonna be like going to jail or whatever. And I'm like freaking out. I'm like, me, the person who's never in trouble, the goody two shoes who doesn't even jaywalk, like what? Me who don't, no, I'm not a bad person. Like, what happened? Who's doing this? And it's like this person saying that you assaulted them and it's a felony charge. So of course, until the months leading up to me going to court to figure out what actually happened, it was very stressful, and I was under a lot of stress thinking I was just a horrible person, you know, putting myself down and worried that I was going to go to jail for something that I don't even remember doing. And when I went to court, I found out it was because of the nurse. They're like, well, the nurse is saying that you assaulted her, and since she is a nurse, it's a felony charge. I'm like, oh, great. So I got a lawyer that that does stuff for free. What is it? I can't say it. Come up here. I need to brush my hair.
I was listening, but
I can't say the other word.
pro bono?
Yes. So I had one of those lawyers. Don't mind me brushing my hair. But I had one of those lawyers. And last year was just a lot. Because an apartment we lived at that's very homophobic, by the way, we got into an argument with our upstairs neighbor because I was trying to tell them I am autistic and I have sensory problems, and hearing them stomp and shake my apartment and fight up there, it just bothered me. And I told the office, you know, it was just a lot. And then one time we were sitting there trying to eat dinner, and there was just stomping, loud music, and I'm like, all right, I can't even enjoy my dinner. So my wife went up there and she banged on their door, and then I heard commotion from downstairs, and I heard yelling, and I heard them chasing my wife. So I was like, oh hell no. So I went up there, and at the top of the stairs I see my wife running down one stairs, because there's 2 sets of stairs on the apartment. And I yelled, I'm like, hey, leave my wife alone. And they both turned towards me because they're about to chase their ass down the stairs, and they come towards me, yelling at me, and I'm like, oh god. So we get into this screaming match. I'm like, you guys are stomping all the time, and it's like bothering me. And they wouldn't talk about this calmly. They were arguing with me, and I was yelling. They were yelling. So he threatened to shoot me, and I threatened him. I didn't threaten him harm. I was just threatening him. I'm like, if you touch my wife, things will end very badly. So cops came. Cops were like, they're not stomping. They don't have boots on, and it's carpeted. I'm like, what? Me and my wife were like, you don't have to have boots on to stomp in an apartment, especially an apartment. He's like, well, it's an apartment. I'm like, okay. And people still deserve the right to have peace and not hear stomping all day long. But long story short, with that, us and the neighbors, we were eventually cool. We all apologized, and they did try a lot harder to be a little bit more respectful towards me. But then another neighbor also assaulted me because her baby daddy was stomping up the stairs, like literally stomping as loud as he could, right? It was shaking all of the stairs because he was just stomping up them. And I was like, hey, I went out there and I was like, hey, can you please stop stomping? And he started yelling at me. I'm like, you don't even live here. You need to stop stomping up the stairs. And then the neighbor, his girl, so the girl, she started yelling at me. She's like, what's going on? I'm like, your friend up here is stomping, and I'm asking him not to stomp. You know, I was really polite about it, and I'm like, I have sensory issues, and hearing the stomping all for like 30 minutes, I would just appreciate you guys to walk slower up the stairs and not stomp. And she had a Coke can, unopened Coke can, and she got mad, and she was at the top of the stairs and threw it, and it almost hit my face, and then it hit my stomach. It left a really bad bruise, and my stomach was hurting for like a few weeks after because it was really bad hit. And apartment complex did nothing for that, and they were just homophobic because they also told us we can't have our flag on our patio, even though the people had American flags and like Trump flags, but we couldn't have our flag because it's political. I'm like, it's not political. There's no political thing about it. And then we paid rent, and they lost our rent, and then we were the ones to blame. And they told us, well, we're not renewing your lease, because we brought up with them, and then I would try to tell them problems that we've been having with management, and then the owners were like, yeah, we're just not going to renew your lease now. And I'm like, really? Wow. So we were trying to find a place to live, but since this nurse wanted to say I assaulted her and the felony charge was still being pressed against me, all the places that I was applying at to live kept saying no because of that. And I thought I was going to be homeless for a while until we got this place, and they also denied me too, but I was like, this is the last thing because we have to move now. So I called them. I'm like, hey, I explained the situation. They're like, okay. And then in May, disability came through, and I'm like, oh my god, yes, you know, finally I can show these people that I am actually disabled and that I do have these problems. So once I told this apartment complex we're at now, they're like, okay, you can move in. I'm like, you guys like saved my life. But this nurse literally ruined my life, and it was a really bad year. So in July, or no, I think the end of June, my case got dismissed because once I got disability, I gave it to my lawyer, and she's like, oh, I'm like, yeah, you guys believe me now, right? Because no one's just gonna get disability for nothing. Like, it's really hard to even get on disability. So, and I want to show this too. This can probably prove the boot that I have, because I sprained my ankle because I had a seizure and I fell off the curb. Like, who would do that stuff just because they're faking? I don't know, because my foot hurts an awful lot. And I have hit my head a lot. I've hurt myself quite a bit from falling because of my seizures. So, yeah, like, why I wouldn't make this up. I wouldn't fake it for nothing. And it just kind of sucks because she told me that I can't take action now because I've been trying, but all the lawyers I contacted are charging way too much. I'm like, do you know anyone who can do this, like, pro bono? Because I really want to take action. They're like, we can't take action against a hospital because it's hard. I'm like, so they can do wrong to me and I still get nothing done, and I'm trying really hard not to cry, but it sucks because these people get away with what they did. These people get away with how they treated me and don't get any punishment from this. So it sucks, and it kind of pushes me back all the way to square one with all the progress I made with myself. So that was that hospital, right? Is there anything else I'm forgetting?
For that hospital.
So I've been doing bad. I've made progress, but then my progress gets lost. My family doesn't treat me like family. Like, if I try and talk to them, I'm like, hey, I want to talk to you about how I feel. I would like to spend more time with you. They don't spend time with me. Hardly any of them talk to me. And then if I say something like, hey, you guys don't talk to me, it's like, well, we're busy. I'm like, I understand, but you can at least check in on me. So I feel like I don't really have a family. Like, I only have my cat and Julie. And I don't want to talk about this other hospital because I can probably still take action against them because it just happened a few months ago, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna talk about that yet, but it's just kind of in the same scenario of what happened with this last one. But PNES is real, and anyone who struggles with it or has it, you have my support, and I believe you. You're not faking, and I'm sorry that you had any traumatic events that happened to you, and that I hope that you get through this, because I'm still trying to get through this. I also have DAD. I was diagnosed in July because my therapist that I've had for 2 years now, 3 years? 2 years. 3 years, actually. She said, you know, you need a little bit more help, so now I have 2 therapists. One's just a regular therapist, and then the other one, she specializes in DAD. So I've been struggling with that a lot, and I guess I can say how many personalities I have. So there's Eddie. He's a kid. He's autistic and nonverbal sometimes. There's Sydney. She's just a spiritual one, you know, loves nature, earth, witchy stuff. There's Sasha, who is kind of a badass. There's Carter. He's the protector of all of us, and he doesn't let anyone hurt us anymore, or he tries not to. Like, he's... How would you explain Carter?
The protector.
He's Carter. And then there's me, Maddie, and then Gabrielle, the legal name, the person here, everywhere. And there's Mike. I don't really know much about him. I just know he's kind of weird. And then there's... Mike's not weird in a bad way. He's just... He keeps to himself a lot. But then there's Winter. She usually comes out during winter time. Yeah, how convenient. And been having some issues with her, some of the personalities, like Carter. He's saying don't trust her, that she's like, I don't know what she's doing. She took me last night and was trying to convince me that I didn't want to be alive. So, yeah, she kind of messes with your mind a lot. I don't know what else. I've been kind of struggling a lot though, and it makes me a little bit more upset that I can't do anything now with the hospital. So like these people just can get away with what they did and treat more people bad and assume things. Like I don't think any doctors or nurses can just assume something when you've only met this person for like 5 minutes. You can't base anything on that, especially not someone like me. Like that's not okay. I've been trying to color and I have no motivation to do it. I haven't been reading at all. I want to read, but I just haven't been able to sit down and actually focus. I've been playing games. I got an Xbox One for my mom. She promised me like 2 Christmas ago and then gave it to me this past Christmas like a few weeks ago. So I like that. Sprained my ankle, like I said. I have a cut on my leg too, really bad cut, because I was upset and broke a glass, and then like a glass vase, and then I fell right into the glass. But yeah, I'm just trying to still survive. I'm trying to live, but it's really hard because I was hoping that I could sue the nurse for defamation of character. I was hoping I could sue the hospital for what they did to me and treated me that way. Because I want people to realize that they can't just go around treating people bad and doing whatever they want just because they have a title in the medical field. It doesn't make you a god. It just means you have to have compassion. You have to be understanding. You can't just say, well, you're faking this because it looks like it to me. Because it doesn't look like what I'm normally used to. Like, yes, non-epileptic seizures do look like that, but they also look different because they can look like epileptic seizures, but they're not epileptic. They can look very strange. It's like, hey, what is this person doing? Like, I will flail, I will moan, I will talk, I will hurt myself. Like, there's a lot that goes on with PNES.
It could also just look like you just fell asleep or you just passed out.
Yeah. So it just sucks that I couldn't do anything to take action and, get justice for me. Because I know people probably can say that a lot of other stuff has happened, but this to me is just, I was hoping that I could get justice for what they did to me and how they treated me and everything. And now that I can't and find out, this is what I came to. I came to just share my story online about what they did. Because I don't think that people should be able to treat other people like me like that. Just because someone is screaming or they're angry or they're upset, how about you try and understand why they're acting that way, or ask them calmly instead of just assuming, oh, they're crazy, they need to go to a mental hospital. There could be a reason why. And I have reasons and I can explain them, but no one asks me. They just assume, they just judge. And that's where I'm left at. Also, my tattoo. I don't know. I think that's it for right now. So, I hope everyone else has a great day. My wife has a new job too, post office. She's gonna be delivering mail. She just came back a little while ago. I ate Pop Pockets for lunch. I haven't taken my meds yet, so I'm gonna take them. Yeah, I think I'm done for right now. So I hope everyone else has a good day, and if you have anything you want to share, go ahead and share it. Because these people that do wrong think that they're untouchable. Blast them, because they don't deserve You don't deserve to be treated like you are not a human. You don't deserve to be treated bad just because you have something wrong in your brain. Okay? So,
Comment section is a safe place.
huh?
Comment section is a safe place.
Julie said the comment section is a safe place. Hey, my whole YouTube channel is a safe place. So anything you want to say, go ahead. And I'm not going to allow hate, though. That's the only thing I want to allow. So if anyone has any bad things to say, you may want to keep it to yourself, or I'll just delete it, because I'm not going to have nothing bad here. Because what we all are is we're vulnerable, we're sensitive, we're real, and people like me who've been through pain, you're more than welcome. And even if you haven't been through pain, you're more than welcome to be here if you want to be here. This is just for people to come together in the mental health community, because we're not alone right now. I have this one, and we got you too.